Okay, I'm getting started on my hydro boost conversion. Got the booster master cylinder out. That didn't take long at all, probably 15 minutes. Now I got the hydro booster. I'm modifying. So to do that, there's a C clip here, and then this nut is really hard to get off of here. That nut holds this plate on. The only way I could get this plate off is by cutting these studs off and then getting a giant wrench, and I can get the nut off because it's a weird nut there. Four-sided giant nut. So now what I'm doing is I got a real rough template, and that is just, it looks like it's gonna work just fine. So I'm gonna make a little bit nicer of a template. This is just kind of to make sure it'll work. I think it's gonna work. So yeah, so now I just gotta make a nicer template, probably cut off these studs, looks like, and then I could not get these studs out. They would not hammer out. They're weirdly pressed in somehow. I don't know how. Maybe I can heat them up like crazy, but I think what I'm gonna do is just cut them off. Maybe grind them flat is what I'm thinking. And then start over with this. I think I'm gonna use this plate, drill some holes in it with the new template, and weld some studs in there, and then I should be good to go, I think. So, and that thing should bolt on, and I'm gonna move on with the lines. Okay, I got my nicer template made up. That's the top, passenger, driver's side, and then I've punched the 4 holes. So now I just got to drill them out, and I think what I'm going to do is just cut this plate off at the bottom there, and the toughest hole is going to be this one because this is like a strengthening rib. I'm going to drill through that. Anyways, do the best I can, see what happens. Okay, so here's where we're at. I got the plate cut, the holes drilled, and then I just welded a bolt on the shaft here. I figure it doesn't have to be crazy strong because all the pressure is going to be pushing onto the hydro booster, not really pulling or twisting or anything. So I just had to do some welds and hurry up and cool it, do some welds, hurry up and cool it, and that should be it. So I got about 2.5 hours, 3 hours into this so far. So now it's ready for mock-up and go from there. Okay, so I got it mocked up here, and the only issue is that the cap just touches my liner. I mean, just touches it. The only issue, I think I'm gonna let it fly. This liner's pretty old. I got it off a salvage yard. I need a new one of these days. So it's just a little droopy. So I think I'm gonna roll with it. The only thing I can think of is putting a protective cover right here. I don't think there'll be an issue though. So I don't have these bolts tight, but that's about where it's gonna be there. So I think I'm gonna be okay. So now I just gotta paint stuff. Well, before I paint, I should probably just run the hydraulic lines and stuff. Do that now, and then worry about paint later. So, okay, keep going. Okay, I think I have the master and booster permanently mounted here. One thing I drilled this plate, and I was gonna weld bolts into the plate so that they were basically studs. However, the issue I ran into is if I ever have to replace this, there's that giant nut on here. you can't have the studs in the way, or else you have to cut them. You have to cut the studs to get the wrench on there. So I just left it as bolts to, for replacement reasons. I got the pedal hooked up inside, so that went okay. The return spring's on. Probably the most challenging issue is getting the brake lines that I've found so far, is getting the brake lines adapted to the master. Really isn't that complicated. It's just a matter of figuring out what fittings you need. So these are 10 by 1.0 metric fittings. So go over to where my little adapters are here. This is how I'm going to do it. So, before I go over there. Now I could cut this right here, flare it, bend it, and put it in here. But I'm going to put a little extension on and kind of bend it around and make it go in. It's a little tougher. I used to flare brake lines all the time. I haven't flared brake lines for quite a while. So I'm a little rusty, and flaring in the vehicle is a little harder to do. So I think it's just a little bit easier to just flare some little extension lines. To do that, first of all, I got these fittings over here. So these fittings here, this is made by AGS. This is the part number. So these are the fittings that are going to go right into the master cylinder. And then they adapt to a different size. And I couldn't find any that adapt to 10 by 1.0. However, I could find them adapting to this 7/16 thread. So this will fit the 3/16 size line just fine. So the only thing is just that at the master here, where it goes into here, they're going to be standard fittings, but they'll be pretty close to 10 millimeter. Anyways, it'll work without. I mean, you're talking it's like $15 in parts. Not a big deal. And then these are my junction fittings. So basically, on the line, one end of the line is going to be 10 by 1.0, which will screw into a junction, which will go into the factory line that's 10 by 1.0. And then on the other side, I'm going to cut this line, remove this, put on one of these, reflare it to the length, cut it the length I want, reflare it, and then install it. So really not a big deal. That's really, to me, one of the bigger obstacles is just finding all the fittings that you need, doing the research for that. So this is AGS also, and there's the part number. And then I just got some 3/16 lines from the parts store to modify. So not too big of a deal. So keep going. Okay, so got my adapters in. These are my little line extensions, like it was the factory line. Looks okay. It'll be fine. Then this is my return hose for the hydrobooster. That tees into the return line for the pump reservoir. They make a reservoir that this can go into it separately. There's another barb you can get. You can get another reservoir with another barb on it. I'm not going to do that right now. Maybe in the future. I don't know. Not that big of a deal. So at this point, I have everything closed up except for one fitting, one hydraulic fitting down at the bottom of the pump. So I'm going to lift the truck up. That fitting, when everything is all together like this, is a pain in the butt to reach. So if you don't have a lift with my setup, it's pretty brutal to tighten otherwise without a lift. So I'll get that tightened up. And then, yeah, so it should hold brake fluid. I'm going to add some brake fluid to it and see if there's any leaks. was gonna put DOT5 and 5.1, the newer DOT5.1 fluid in this, but this is just DOT3. It'll work. Whenever I'm putting fluids in something, when I do a project like this, my mind always wonders what I forgot to tighten. It's always good to think about that, I think. Pretty sure I'm good having everything tight, at least on the brake lines. Man, this reservoir is huge. It's taking a whole quart of brake fluid. I still have to bleed this thing. Okay. Well, nothing so far. I gotta bleed the system, and that'll really test out all my junctions, see if they leak. Okay, I had some issues. One thing I didn't really look up was how to bleed the hydrobooster. So I fired it up and didn't have any brakes. And then also I had some leaks at these fittings. I didn't have these brass fittings near tight enough. Cranked them down good, cranked the lines down good. Got rid of those leaks. Turns out one thing you got to do is turn the wheel back and forth with everything up in the air. And while you're doing that, hit the brakes. That kind of gets some air out of here. And then letting it sit overnight. I let it sit overnight for that. Just to kind of get any other help, you know, get the ATF or the steering fluid so it's not aerated. Letting it sit helped with that. And then I've just gotten done bleeding the brakes really well. I use a power bleeder with pressure coming from the top, and then a vacuum, you know, at the bleeding ports. So let's see how it does. Okay, let's fire this thing up. Oh man, holy cow, I can already feel a huge pedal difference. I mean, like, turn the light on here. I mean, I am pushing the pedal maybe 2 inches and then it's rock solid. Holy cow, that feels like way better. Doing my research, they said, I read online that this thing puts out like 2,000 psi at the caliper. Let's fire it up. I got the wheels off the ground so I can. Whoa. I mean, the pedal is right there. Holy cow. Whoa. Jeez. I mean, it's a whole different animal braking wise. Jeez. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to have to adjust the load sensing proportioning valve or not. The way I like to do that is when it's on a dirt road, or even better, an icy road, and adjust it so all 4 tires lock up at the same time on a slick surface. Because I don't want the rear end locking out first on a slick surface makes the rear end kick out, cruise control. I like kind of a neutral slide, so I got no RPM drop when I hit the brakes. Well, it feels extremely impressive right now. The only other thing to do is get on the road. And see how it does. So, yeah, I just have to get on the road, see what's up. There's a couple things I need to button up, get the hoses kind of zip tied nice, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to fix an exhaust leak while I got on the lift, so yeah, I'll just button things up now. Okay, I got it on the road. The only observation I have is it brakes really well, but the pedal is just too stiff. As far as it takes a fair amount of pedal effort to engage the brakes, and they're just a little too touchy. So I may have to go with the smaller diameter piston master cylinder, but not a big deal. I might do that in the future. For now, I'm going to drive around for a while and just see how I like it as is. I might get used to it. It's working though, brakes feel good. So, is the mod worth it? I don't know. I mean, it wasn't that expensive. It wasn't a ton of effort. I'm pretty happy with it, but it's just such a new mod. I can't really give you a definitive answer. Anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you later.